Hi everyone, how are you doing? So I get asked a lot, where do I find bean to bar chocolate? And obviously one answer is right here at Bean to Bar World. You can find a great selection of really top bean to bar craft chocolate makers from around the world. But let's say you're not buying from online. Let's say you go into a shop. You say you come across a shop or a stand that is telling you they're selling fine chocolate. How do you know if it's fine chocolate or not? So one great way to go about it is to use the Bean to Bar World app. And this is an app I created specifically for this issue. So a lot of people don't know, where do I find these incredible craft chocolate makers? They're not something that you find even in some, boutique chocolate shops or high-end grocery stores. Sometimes you don't even find it there. So check out the Bean to Bar World app, which I created from a map I created many years ago. And it basically locates bean to bar makers around the world. So no matter where you are in the world, you can find craft chocolate makers, bean to bar chocolate makers in your city, in your state, in a country, maybe somewhere you're going to travel to. You want to know or if there's any interesting chocolate shops there you can check out. There's also other features on the app as well, such as cacao growers and things like that. But definitely try it out first if you want to check out some bean to bar chocolate makers just like these guys here. The second place is the ingredients. So let's say you're somewhere, you see some chocolate bars. The first thing you want to do before you look for anything else is to look at the ingredients. You have to look in the ingredients. Not so much for what's there, but what's not there specifically. So for instance, here I have a Louisa Abram 70% Rio Acara chocolate bar. The ingredients for this one are just cocoa mass, organic cane sugar, and cocoa butter. Now this is dark chocolate. When you're looking for dark chocolate, that's all you want to see. 2 or 3 ingredients, and that's it. Cocoa bean, cane sugar, and maybe some cocoa butter. Some of the makers add a little bit of extra cocoa butter. It can do a few things. It makes the chocolate less viscous, so easier for them to mold and shape and not get air bubbles. It also makes the chocolate sometimes seem a little bit creamier, sometimes. So let's look here. I'll show you on the Bean to Bar World shop, right? So here we have ingredients: cocoa mass, organic cane sugar, and cocoa butter. So sometimes you'll see cocoa beans, sometimes you'll see cacao, sometimes you'll see cocoa mass. But essentially it is cocoa mass is just ground up cocoa beans. But we do know that Louisa Abram is sourcing the cacao themselves and making the chocolate from scratch. So let's look for another one here. We have Cacao Suyo. Cacao Suyo is a chocolate maker based in Peru. So they're obviously going to be using Peruvian cacao. So let's look at the ingredients here. 2 ingredients, cacao paste and sugar, and that's it. Let's look at another chocolate bar. Let's look at Kazama. Kazama is a chocolate maker in Vancouver. This is their Ecuador origin 70% dark chocolate bar. Their ingredients are cocoa beans, unrefined cane sugar, and cocoa butter. So let's look here at the label up close. Ingredients, nice and clear. Cocoa beans, unrefined cane sugar, and cocoa butter. And let's also look at Dick Taylor. Dick Taylor is another fine chocolate bar maker in Eureka, California. And their ingredients, only 2, cacao and cane sugar. So let's look at that here. Cacao and cane sugar. Good. So that's all you want to see, 2 or 3 ingredients on the ingredient list for dark chocolate. If it was milk chocolate, then obviously you'd have milk powder in there as well. And usually you'd always have to have cocoa butter as well in there. But I don't want to see anything like vanilla because, there's nothing wrong with vanilla if it's real vanilla, but it's there to improve the quality of the bean. So if I ever see vanilla on a fine chocolate bar, chances are the quality of the bean is not that great. You wouldn't want to see extracts or any other flavors in your wine or your espresso, right? If it's a high quality and you're paying good money for it, you want just wine made from fermented grapes. You don't want any other flavorings to enhance it. What's there to enhance if it's a fine product? And the same is true for chocolate. You don't want to see any enhancers in there. Now there are flavored chocolates. There are flavored dark chocolates, flavored milk chocolate. That's something different. That's fine to have other ingredients in there. But if you're eating a fine dark chocolate, such as one of these, what you're eating, it's the same as drinking a fine wine or drinking an espresso or a coffee black, is you want the essence of the bean. You want that in there, and that's it. So I don't want to see any vanilla. I don't want to see any natural or artificial flavors. Natural sounds good. It still is synthesized in a lab. It's not something you want in your fine chocolate bars. And you don't want any other fats in there. You don't want any palm kernel oils or anything like that. So very, very simple ingredients. Now, that won't tell you everything, because let's look at, for instance, let's look at some commercial chocolate bars. So we have a Lindt bar over here. 70%, a lot of people like it. Let's read the ingredients. Cocoa mass, sugar, cocoa butter, and vanilla beans, right? So what did I say about the vanilla beans? It's there to improve the flavor of the bar. We don't need to improve any bar if it's made with high quality cocoa beans. Now we have a Cadbury Premium Dark Chocolate Bar. Let's look at the ingredients. Ingredient: dark chocolate, including sugar, unsweetened chocolate, cocoa butter, milk ingredients, soy lecithin, natural flavor. You might like this bar, that's fine. It's not a fine chocolate bar. Now, here are some that actually might have some good ingredients. Now here we see Nestle L'Atelier Cru Raw 70% chocolate. So raw means that there's really no standard to raw. It can mean the beans are unroasted. Usually they're roasted very slightly, not very much. And we'll talk about that another day. But let's look at the ingredients. Unsweetened chocolate, sugar, cocoa butter. So unsweetened chocolate is basically just 100% chocolate ground up. Sugar and cocoa butter. Nothing bad there, right? But this is not a fine quality chocolate. We'll come back to that later. Now we look here. This is from a chocolate maker, actually not a chocolate maker, from a chocolatier in Vancouver called Thomas Haas. And very popular chocolatier. They make really great chocolates and pastries. In regards to, when I say chocolates, I mean bonbons and truffles. But they're not a bean-to-bar chocolate maker. They don't make the chocolate from the bean. They don't take the raw cacao, roast it, grind it, turn it into chocolate. It's like saying I'm a coffee roaster, but I don't actually roast my own coffee. You're not a coffee roaster. So what is this? Why does it say bean to bar? 71% bean to bar. And it says here on the back that this is, our bean to bar chocolate was created in partnership with Cocoa Berry at their laboratoire in Paris. So Cocoa Berry is a very large, enormous chocolate maker. They're not a fine chocolate maker, but they make good couverture chocolate for chocolatiers. It's not the same as a bean to bar maker. So you could say that this is sort of a private label bar, right? They got someone else to make the chocolate for them. And again, Cacao Berry is not using the finest cacao in the world. They might pick some cacao that's a little bit better than the cacao used by Hershey or Cadbury, but it's still not up there in the fine cacao range. So the ingredients is dark chocolate, cocoa mass, cocoa butter, cane sugar, soy lecithin, and vanilla. And they add a little bit of sea salt to this bar. Now again, you don't want to see vanilla in your fine chocolate. And soy lecithin, although there's nothing wrong with lecithin in and of itself, it's a natural component of many things. We don't want to see it in our dark chocolate. So ingredients tell you something, but they don't tell you everything. So again, just to recap, what I want to see on my bar is just 2 or 3 simple ingredients for dark chocolate. For milk chocolate, maybe 4. Some makers add some non-GMO lecithin to their milk chocolate sometimes. That's up to you if you're okay with that or not. But generally, don't want to see any other flavors. I don't want to see any other fats. Nothing like that. Now the next important aspect is information on the cacao. So the cacao is the basis of the dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is basically just cacao and sugar. And if you add a bit of cocoa butter, it's essentially just a component of the cacao itself. So you need to make sure that it's a good quality cacao, not just in flavor, but in other attributes as well. So a lot of people think that a dark chocolate has to taste bitter. And these two chocolate bars, one is a fine chocolate, one is not. They're both 70%, which means they're both 70% cocoa bean, 30% sugar. That's how that percentage works there for dark chocolate. But what can they tell you about the cacao also determines probably the quality of it. So not necessarily, they might know which country it comes from, which region it comes from, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a high quality cacao. Okay, and so the only way to really know is by tasting the chocolate. So if you're in the chocolate shop looking at bars, you can't ask them to break a piece off for you and taste it. So you're going to have to go by some other things. Usually in the craft chocolate world, they give you more information on the cacao, on where it grows, the co-op, the farmers, things like that. The more information they can give you, then you can start to trust them a little bit more that they're maybe using fine cacao. So for instance, in this Lindt 70% Excellence bar, they talk about, the chocolatiers blending the aromas, but there's no information at all about where the cacao comes from. Now, Lindt does have some single origin cacaos, but usually they're very broad, right? Madagascar, whatever it is. Even, let's say, the Nestle L'Atelier bar, it also doesn't say anything about where the cacao comes from, anything about the cacao other than they say it's 100% sustainably sourced cacao. So you might find chocolate bars that are fair trade or organic, but fair trade and organic is not synonymous with quality. You can have mediocre, poor quality cacao that is also fair trade and organic, and you can have high quality cacao that is fair trade and organic as well. So let's look at the Dick Taylor bar and see what they have to say about the cacao. So they tell you that it's grown not only in Belize, but in Toledo, Belize in the south there, and they even show you on the map. And then under origin, they write that the cacao comes from the co-op Maya Mountain Cacao. So they're very specific about that. So let's also look at Kazama chocolate, their Costa Esmeraldas Ecuador bar. And we'll see here that they're telling you this is a single estate cacao bean used to make this chocolate, grown in Costa Esmeraldas, the Emerald Coast in northern Ecuador. So it's a family-owned and operated farm situated on emerald green hills overlooking the ocean. So they have a very picturesque and a very good picture of where the cacao is coming from. So we can even look that up. So we have here costaesmeraldas.com, Costa Esmeraldas Cacao Company, and here we go. All the information on the farm and what they do. There's even some videos here, information on their cacao beans. And so you can actually, the more information these makers give about where the cacao comes from, if you want to do your research, you want to know more about it, you can go online and find a lot of these co-ops and these farms and get more information on them.